Hey, Sweet Bear family and Heart Leader community. It's co-host Austin Yule, and we're back here, the Heart Leader podcast. And we have a very, very special guest today, good friend Alex Smith. And Alex has been a pioneer in the cannabis industry for over a decade as one of the youngest cultivators and owners in the country. He has had many accolades, many awards, been written in magazines, and started multiple cannabis startups. And he's definitely a true authority in the industry. But you'll be able to kind of browse through his bio in the description below. But I really want to talk to you about why he's here. And as a longtime friend, he is a fierce and loyal friend. He is extremely trustworthy. And that's one of the reasons why we wanted to bring him on today, because he brings so much heart and compassion into what he does, especially in an industry like the cannabis industry, which tends to be not known as much for that. And so when we are touching on a difficult subject like cannabis, with there being some illegality and legality all around the world relative to this plant, having someone you can really trust, someone that I know I really trust and has been a part of my life for a long time, we just kind of wanted to open that door and just share. So Alex, my brother,
Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's wonderful to have you, man. It's kind of been a long time coming. I'm really glad that we can chat in this way.
Absolutely.
And so I kind of want to hit the ground running a little bit here. And, cannabis, our theme this month is gratitude, right? And I know you and I have had long talks about personal growth and self-improvement for many, many years.
Absolutely.
And, but many might be thinking about, well, how does cannabis and gratitude have anything to do with it? And that's where someone like myself, who's had major injuries and struggled with pain management, anxiety, stress, cannabis has been a helpful tool in terms of CBD and THC for that. There's incredible pain management, and it's really helped me. I didn't want to get stuck on pills or anything like that, so it provided another form for me. And for that, I'm super grateful. And so I kind of wanted to dive into gratitude and cannabis and kind of what initiates that for you.
Oh, man. I would say that it started with, you kind of get hit with curveballs in life, right?
Yeah.
Something that happened to me very early on that got me into cannabis was my dad passing away from cancer. And it wasn't until probably 5 years ago when there was a survey study that came out that showed that cannabis helped pancreatic cancer patients with relieving pain, but also with treating the actual cancer. And it actually took like what was a 95% death rate roughly in the early 2000s to now, I believe it's less than like 75%. And that's just from using things like RSO, Rick Simpson hemp oil is what they call it, THC products. So, for me, I am grateful, one, to be in an industry that allows me to give back to the community and to people, that something that I kind of still hold very close, which was taken from me. But also because it has given me an entirely different perspective on not just life, but business, understanding of other people, perspective, and more importantly, context. Like, I think very few people really take the time to understand what other people are thinking or saying or doing, or why they're doing those things. And you look at cannabis and it's just this very misunderstood thing, mostly because of propaganda, let's be honest.
Yes.
We can go into that for hours and hours, but I believe cannabis is something that's absolutely needed. I think we're turning the corner of people's understanding of cannabis and why it's necessary. I think just the other day they said that for the first time in history, there are more people, not history, but our known history, using cannabis than are drinking alcohol. That purchasing power for cannabis actually finally beat alcohol. So These are all things that, I questioned whether I would see very quickly, but it's all happening a lot faster. And, I've been growing since I was 17. So for the last almost 18 years, and things have only gotten more chaotic. Things have only gotten crazier. I think there's this notion that, legalization has helped make things better. and we can talk on that plenty. But I'm grateful it's legal. I'm grateful we're going in the direction of being more widely known and used. But I think we still have a long way to go.
This episode of the Heart Leader Podcast was brought to you by Stephen Douglas. Stephen Douglas is one of the nation's leading boutique search and interim resources firms and has been recognized as a leader in identifying and providing access to top talent for clients since 1984. Whether it's a company preparing to go to the next level or a candidate looking for better opportunities, Stephen Douglas keeps the focus on the needs of the people they serve. They specialize in connecting the right talent to a company's needs, while also understanding what the market demands. To learn more about this amazing organization, visit them at stephendouglas.com.
Right. What do you think are some of the biggest myths right now around cannabis?
One, that it's a gateway drug.
Okay.
I think from my perspective, anything can be considered a gateway drug or a gateway into doing something else.
Sure.
Two, that it's this crazy, insane money-making business that you just step into it and you make millions and millions of dollars.
Mm-hmm.
And three, that everybody that's a part of the cannabis industry is a good person or a person who's trying to help.
Mm.
That is probably the biggest flaw, in that the industry is very dark. It is very cutthroat, probably the most cutthroat industry I've seen, maybe aside from tech. And because of it still being in this gray, black, white blob of crap, you have all kinds of people, from really, really good people to really, really nefarious people.
I bet. And such is the world, right?
It is a microcosm of the world, for sure.
Yes, man. I mean, and that's one of the things that I really wanted to kind of bring to light here, and why we wanted to have you on this podcast, because you are a heart leader and you bring so much love, compassion, care, trust. And so one of the things I've always admired about you is you're willing to go into the darkness. You're willing to have that internal strength that many people tend to shy away from, because it's hard. It's not easy. And so, but you really, there's a lot of internal pride since we were in high school, man. I've seen that you're just willing to step in and do what others won't, so you can kind of light the way. And so I just thank you for that, man. I have a ton of gratitude for people like that who are willing to do that.
I appreciate you saying that. It's interesting, because I don't think it's something that I had growing up.
Mm-hmm.
And then right around the time that my life kind of took that 180, for whatever reason, I couldn't tell you where it came from, gift from God, whatever it may be.
Mm-hmm.
It's something internally, just kind of like a light switch.
Mm. And
it's wild, because I've now been I'm on my 7th cannabis startup, and all 6 have, I started them up, I got bought out, or I left, or I went on to something else, and all 6 are still operating or still doing their own thing. It doesn't necessarily get any easier, but it does become more fun. Like, every time I do it, I think that, okay, this is the last time I'm going to do it. No matter how good or bad I do, this is the last time I'm going to do it. This is too much stress, this, that. And then I get to the finish line and it's like, okay, I guess I want to do it one more time. Something has changed inside of me, in the sense that I don't see the darkness anymore. I actually have, frustratingly, gotten more faith in humanity and tend to give people more of the benefit of the doubt than less. And now I'm at this point in my life where it is, from my perspective, one giant adventure.
Mm.
And so, to go into detail, we just had a management contract cut short on a grow that we were operating in Scottsdale.
Yeah.
And in a matter of weeks, I had to figure out something for my whole team, products, plants, you name it. And so we're already in the process now of buying a new grow up north. And we took the drive last night for the second time to go deliver plants. And it hit me yet again as I was driving this big rig truck that I've never done before.
Mm-hmm.
And it's raining and we're going downhill. And I've got one more truck behind me. And I've got all the guys that are already down ahead of me. I'm just like, is this what my life is? Like one big rolling adventure from one cannabis venture to the next, and all the crazy shit that happens in between. And it's like, yeah, that's isn't that what life is supposed to be, is one roller coaster? So, to go back to, I am very grateful that I get to do this. I'm very grateful that I love it as much as I do, because frankly, I see a lot of people that are just miserable every day. And even the guy who's selling us his grow, he was like, man, y'all are having too much fun. We were cursing and laughing and talking shit about the people that had screwed us over and this and that. And I just looked at him and I was like, people are too miserable nowadays. Like, have some fun with us.
Yeah.
Talk some shit with us. Like, we're just a bunch of guys. And yeah, I think, for us, I don't look at the darkness anymore. I don't look at it like I'm lighting the way for anybody, although I have to sit back and take it in that I am and kind of give credence to that, because if you don't ever notice it, you don't ever think about it, you can maybe make the wrong decision. You can maybe let ego get involved. And so I do have a certain amount of pride in that, I have a lot of people that depend on me. When it's time to go get something done, I go get it done. It doesn't always happen until the very last second. But what's funny is it always ends up happening. So yeah, grateful to do what I do and grateful to lead the way. And that's something I've had to battle internally with to accept, because I think some people are born leaders. Some people are made into leaders. I don't think I was born that way. I think I've had to figure it out.
You have immense perseverance. I mean, I've seen it for years.
This shit takes a lot.
It does, man. I mean, but the fact that you're just starting your 7th grow and you're still the one driving the truck up north, I mean, that just puts into perspective that you're not just sitting back. Like you dive into the trenches. I mean, you're in it.
I don't think I could sit back.
Yeah.
I don't think I think that inherently has like been built into me. I mean, the first grow I ever built, I was on the roof. I remember because we had built the whole inside of the grow, but we hadn't fixed the roof yet. And just like it was raining a little bit ago, monsoon season was upon us right as we were getting ready to open. I spent a week on the roof every morning at like 4 a.m, 3 a.m, pushing a broom to get water off the roof so it didn't leak into the grow. Like ever since then, it's just, if I'm not working as hard or harder than everybody else, if I'm not pulling those plants into the room, if I'm not moving that thing that needs to get moved, I just don't feel like I'm as connected.
Right.
I feel connected when I'm there next to them, when I'm getting my hands dirty. And there's not that, which there's a lot of nowadays, that kind of corporate ivory tower mentality of, oh, I'm just going to pay this person to go do this or this. I don't have time for that. I have to take a phone call. I do all of those things, and the guys will laugh at me for it, because I'll be on a phone call with an investor or trying to get something handled while I'm moving plants, while I'm trying to talk to 2 other people to tell them what to do. And I couldn't see it happening any other way.
It's amazing. You're one of the few that has that unique ability to take a situation and pull the best out of it and seek to, as we've talked about, one of the reasons you're here on this month for gratitude is find the gratitude in the experience, even if it's difficult, even if it's tough, even if it's not the way you wanted it to go. And so a little bit before we got started, we were diving into something about, you were talking about managers and your partners and, how you've had a lot of gratitude for the experience. And I know you wanted to wait to kind of chat a little bit more about that. Is now a good time to dive into that a little bit?
Absolutely.
Share? That'd be great.
So I've got more than a few partners, but my 2 main guys that do a lot of the growing, for the first 10 years of my industry experience growing, I learned to grow myself. That's kind of what drove this all forward. Was my dad passed away, went down the rabbit hole of cannabis and learning about the fact that the US government had patents on it, the fact that they knew that cannabis was a neuroprotectorant, that it helped beat things like, pain. It helped beat things like diverticulitis or irritable bowel syndrome. They knew that it had these uses. And the more I went down that rabbit hole, the more I kind of became a little bit conspiratorial minded on not everything is the way they want you to believe it is. And in fact, most times it's the opposite of what they want you to believe. I started growing. and I grew all the way up until it went legal in Arizona. And the second it went legal in Arizona, I was on the phone trying to figure out, how do I get into this industry? And I'm going to be grateful for this one. My mom, I was still living at her house. I was 22. Mm-hmm. She basically came up to me one day and she was like, "You're too good at growing." Slapped me in the face, like quite literally slapped me in the face, and was like, "You need to get out of the house. You need to go do this professionally." And within a year, you know, I'd already built the first business plan. I was valeting. I was building out a grow. And it just straight from there. And, you know, 6 grows later, here I am with guys that have been on with me for the last 2 projects, Ben and Silas. And they have taught me quite a bit. And it's interesting to see pieces of my own personality that I've had to let go of, whether it be, you know, ego, pride, things that were a little overdeveloped. It's interesting at how they have kind of filled those roles. And so I have become more of a silent leader, I'm the guy that's like, "Guys, we need to be respectful. Who cares how much they've screwed us over? Mm-hmm. Don't say anything. Just let it go. We'll figure it out later." And those two I love it because they get to be the unhinged ones and I get to sit back and watch. Mm-hmm. I get to sit back and see those pieces of myself that I've either had to let go of or I've grown out of, that they're still holding on to that. And so I have always been the fighter, but it's nice because now I get to be less of the fighter and more of the thinker and the doer, and let's go this way instead of that way. Mm. And they're right there beside me, and they have, you know, full respect of the decisions that I make alongside of them. But they're the ones that if I'm like, "Okay, it's time to go get in the ring," they're the first ones into the ring and they're throwing hands.
That's amazing. That's not to pun intended on cultivation, but you've really cultivated a unique and special bond with those that you work with. And I can only imagine, you know, I don't know everyone you work with, but I know we've, you know, myself, you, Anthony, our group of good friends, like, you know, just you're such a core aspect of it. And it's just being that core, that trustworthy person, that individual is that, you know, like I know when we talk, you're not going to judge me. I know that you're going to hold space, you're going to listen, and you're actually going to listen, and you're going to care. And those are incredible things, because really what that does is that, to me, that is part of gratitude.
Absolutely.
That's embodying gratitude, because you can be in that space of being grateful for an experience, whether it's easy or difficult, just by being present in all reality of it. And it's being in that space of abundance, not looking at something's happening to you, but what can I learn? How can I grow? How can I build? You know, how can I step into something more? And as you beautifully just stated, as you moved from this kind of fighter mentality into the thinking and doing and holding space, you know, there's so much more. That's one comes from a space of lack, where the other comes from a space of abundance. And Absolutely. Gratitude truly is abundance in action.
Absolutely. And I think, having said all that, and I appreciate you for saying that, I am a loyalist to the core. Like, yeah. If you're on my team, I don't think there's an end to the earth that I won't go to for you. Having said that, I still am a fighter, but I'm more of a fighter in the sense that I have lost the victim mentality. I've lost the, as you say, like lacking mentality. And I think the more you step away from this desperation and the more you step into this faith, and there's abundance, and if you want something, all you have to do is speak it into existence and go do it. And if your follow through is on par with your capabilities of manifestation, there's nothing you can't do. Mm-hmm. And we're going through it right now. I was telling the guys, hey, on the last grow we did, we raised $7.5 million in 90 days during COVID, during the middle of COVID.
Wow.
From August to December 2021, we raised $7.5 million, and we got a 75,000 square foot building on 10 acres. Mm. All of it got done in that 90-day period. And I looked at him the other day and I was like, well, I guess we're going to one up ourselves, because now we have to go raise 10 million in 60 days during what could be a pretty terrible recession when we look back on this time.
Right.
But there was no hesitation. There was no, maybe I can't do this. It was full faith, full will, full manifestation. Like, this is just another stepping stone. And all you have to do is take that step. All you have to do is follow through. All you have to do is, make those 1,000 phone calls, make those 500 phone calls.
Mm-hmm.
They say, how do you eat an elephant? You eat it one bite at a time. Mm-hmm. And I think I've grown into this place where there's no doubt in my mind that if I want to do something and I really want to do it, I have the capabilities of doing it. And I am now trying to figure out, how do I relay that mentality onto other people so that they can go do the things that they want. It's still just as much about cannabis, but it's also just as much about teaching people around me that faith and manifestation are real, and all you have to do is believe.
Love that. And if there is such thing as a gateway, maybe it's gratitude is a gateway to abundance.
Absolutely. I think you can look at the negative aspects and you can latch yourself onto those pretty quick.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with taking 5, 10, 20, 30 minutes out of a day to be frustrated, to go walk into the back room and have it out with yourself, scream, yell, throw some stuff, whatever you want to do. But the second that moment has passed, step back into that role of, I'm going to go make this shit happen, and nothing's going to stop me.
It's so important. And I think one of the things that maybe people struggle with when it comes to gratitude is the action side of it. Because it's oftentimes, as you're saying, with manifestation and gratitude, abundance, all these things are linked. And so when it's easy to fall in the pattern of being passive.
Very.
When kind of diving into this. And so I really love that you're just really bringing forward this idea that it does take action. As important as some of the passive stuff is. I mean, just as we take the time to sit and charge our phone so it can get back up, in order for it to be used, we have to do the same for ourselves. I mean, there's time and place for that.
Absolutely.
But in the end, it does take action. And so I just appreciate you bringing that forward. And action can be like, if we want to be grateful, then we can bring gratitude into the actions that we embody.
Absolutely. And it's, people think, or at least I think people have this perception that you can't be aggressive and grateful at the same time, or you can't be, I get called a cyborg because I'm very I can flip on a dime from being very emotional, very passionate, very happy to have everybody around me, to very aggressively, unemotionally, unattached, have to get this thing done. Nothing else matters because that's the next step. I think that's one of kind of my personal superpowers is I can go from this loving, caring guy to right into that mode of, okay, guys, we have to go get this, and this done. It has to be done by this time, or this next domino doesn't fall. Period. The end. And I think that anybody can learn all of these things just by stepping into whatever it is that they want to do. And I get that passion and finding something you're passionate about can be difficult, but you're never going to find your passion if you don't try, if you're not aggressive about trying. And you're never going to find something you're passionate about until you actually start learning about those things. The more you learn, the more your passion is going to grow. The more your passion grows, chances are, the more your enthusiasm, the more your gratefulness, the more those other things grow. So I've always said, whether it's business or whether it's personal growth, it's all a domino effect. But it comes down to you tipping over that first domino and making the choice to do that, and then stepping into that and acting.
I love that. And I know you've been a big part of bringing action into the cannabis industry. And so you're not just someone who talks the talk, you actually walk it. I mean, you've been part of, as you were building your grow, your first one, which you took from 0 to 7 figures in the first year of operations, you actually also helped the city of Phoenix, actually walking through what it is to, what is a cultivation facility? What does it look? How does it operate? What does it even do? And so I think it's really amazing that you're someone who takes that action, you put effort into it, and then you also know how to balance and kind of sit back and being in that gratitude of it. Like, okay, so I did that. Now I'm going to sit back and let it unfold. And so I'm going to be in that I'm going to be grateful for it. So with that, what are you seeing in the cannabis industry right now? Not just in Arizona, but maybe the country, maybe the world. Feel free to talk about any of it. But what are you seeing that you're grateful for right now that's occurring? And what would you like to see kind of moving forward?
Oh, man. On a smaller level, I'm grateful for everything that goes on with the people I meet with, the good people I get to work with. I'm grateful that our so-called leaders, and I say so-called because sometimes I wonder, are actually starting to understand cannabis. Mm-hmm. And I'm actually even more grateful that the people because at the end of the day, the citizens, the civilians, they're the ones that hold leaders accountable. I'm glad that they're finally stepping into this position of wanting to be educated on cannabis, right, wanting to understand it, willing to try it, willing to overlook years and years, decades, literally, of propaganda. Mm-hmm. Even my grandma went through all the stages of propaganda of it being legal and then being illegal. And even she to this day is one of my biggest fans. And she's like, I want to try it, is hesitant about it, but people are finally starting to kind of open that door to understanding what cannabis is and how it can help. I think at the end of the day, that's what I'm most grateful for. I think there's still a long way to go. There's a ton of things I could poke holes in and be like, this is bad, this is bad, this is bad. There's a lot of corporate greed. There is a lack of, grassroots ownership in the industry. I think the industry has a ton of, it's very, in some segments, female driven. It's very, all these pieces that you hear people talk about nowadays of like, oh, there's not enough of this, or there's not enough of this. There's not equality. There is a ton of that in cannabis, frankly. And that's actually it's very driven in that direction. But at the top, behind all of these people that are managing or that are co-owners or that are partial owners, there is still this corporate greed mentality of a bunch of old dudes with a ton of money that like to pull the strings on everybody else from an ivory tower. And it's, that's been one of my big things that I headbutt a lot is, and you see this all across the country, all across the world, is operators and money people are always like this. Yeah. Always. Because the money person doesn't care to understand the industry. The operator doesn't really care to understand business or business mentality, or there's still this divide right down the middle of black and white, of people that have been doing it illegally, that have paid their dues, and then the people that have never done anything illegal that we know of, that are now wanting to kind of step across the line on both ends. Over the last 10 years, I've developed this habit of being able to bounce from both sides and understand both positions and try and choose and prioritize what matters when. And I'm grateful I have that discernment, but it also puts me in some sticky situations sometimes.
No, thank you for that. I think it's helpful to know. And education is really the first big hurdle, right? Yep. So you're saying there's so many years of propaganda kind of demonizing something that actually is very, very helpful. And there's so many proven documents to show it. There's so many things out there showing it. And yet there's still this misconception and misunderstanding. And so I really appreciate that your first and foremost approach is more about education and providing that. I know anytime I've had a question, you've been right there to help out. And it really means a lot to me, especially, after having my injury and not wanting to be hooked on pain pills, which we know, there's documentaries, there's even shows now all about how, it's ruined a lot of people's lives.
And it's not slowing down. It's getting worse.
Right. That's right.
I was in that same position. I had my motorcycle accident. I think I had opiates for a day. And I was like, nope, not going to happen. And I wish there was that mentality. I wish that, if I had one major wish, it would be that the medical society stopped pushing synthetics as much as they push homegrown, earth-grown, organic type things. But that's synonymous in every industry across the board. If it's better for margins, it's probably not going to be better for the organic growth of things. So that's something I fight every day. But, I have people every single day that will come to me through an investor or through a friend and just, I have this question, I have that question. If I'm not willing to answer those questions, then who will? And it always, at the end of the day, that's always the last question I ask myself is, if I don't do this, who will? And I find myself not really seeing many people that if I don't step to the plate, that person's going to step to the plate. Am I okay with that? Not really.
I appreciate that. What can you share that might be really helpful for people in this form of education? Because there's been a wave of CBD, especially over the last few years, right? And it's been really interesting, especially as athletes and even individuals. It's been difficult because some of these organized sports, they'll even not allow CBD or something because of this, I would offer maybe a stigma. And I'm not as well educated in this area by any means compared to you. So I was wondering if you might be able to share a little bit more about CBD and then just the health benefits of CBD, as well as the health benefits of THC for people who, maybe aren't athletes or at least not competitive, where they are open and able to utilize THC, and just maybe just kind of cut the BS a little bit and just provide the actual education, like what you helped me so kindly with.
Absolutely. So most of the sports and athletic commissions won't allow CBD usage. And they're just now all starting to change that, because technically per US law, CBD can have a very, very, very small amount. I believe it's 0.03% THC. Okay. So they've said, hey, as long as there's THC in the products or can be in the products, we're not going to allow it, because they just did not want, I don't know what the fixation is on that single molecule and why they hate it so bad, but they do. My personal opinion is they dislike it because I have noticed that with people that smoke or with people that ingest or use THC, it kind of opens up a little bit of a fuck it mentality, a little bit of like if it's not really important to me on a subconscious level, I don't want to do it. And it then goes from subconscious to conscious. So it's like, I realized very quickly after ingesting and smoking, I did not want to work a dead end job. I did not want to go work for somebody else. I wanted to do my own thing, and I was going to chase that to the ends of the earth. And I think if that mentality shifted in every single person in the world, all at the same time, I don't know where the world would be at that point. I really don't. Like, the world works the way it does right now because there are a certain amount of people trapped in the matrix. There are a certain amount of people that are trapped in the hamster wheel and will never get out. Right. And I think that there are some overlord mentality type people that are saying we can't let that happen, because if that switch did happen overnight, all hell would break loose. And on one hand, I agree. And on another hand, I'm kind of like, I'd like to see that. Let's do this thing.
The irony is that the thought is if people smoke, they're going to be lazy. And that's what I find is that's the propaganda around it. And that's the misconception.
I think lazy people will find any reason to be lazy. And I think, coming back to real quick to CBD and THC, CBD, we all have this cannabinoid receptor in our body. In fact, we have hundreds of thousands of them. You could potentially say we haven't even scratched the surface as far as how many receptors interact with CBD at a genetic level, how many react with THC. And there's a whole section that nobody ever really talks about when they talk about THC and CBD and cannabis. It's the terpene section. Terpenoids are most of the time in conjunction with CBD and THC, what reacts in your body. So things like myrcene, limonene, the flavors that you get, those cannabinoids mixed in with THC and CBD are actually what helps your system, whether it's pain, whether it's management of, stomach functions, neuroprotectorants. I mean, depending on what strain you get and depending on its terpene breakdown, it will either put you to sleep or it will give you so much anxiety that your heart will start racing and you won't know what to do. Or it may make you extremely creative and you want to go write and you want to go think. And so it's everybody's body's different. Everybody's body is going to react differently to a strain. Yeah. But we're just now finally starting to hone in on this ratio of these molecules of THC, CBD, CBG, CBN, all these various cannabinoids and terpenes. That's what makes for this final effect. And so we're going to be studying this for the next 100 years. And compared to alcohol, like we're just scratching the surface. And it'll be interesting to see over the next 10 years, how things will shift from a recreational use, which is the mainstay of what's being used right now, to does it turn into something that's a little bit more direct in that you have something made specifically for your genetic code, tailored to a ratio of cannabinoids and THC that you then take because you want to go and do XYZ. You want to go and work for 12 hours straight with no thought in your mind, no second guessing, like almost taking another drug, like taking cocaine or taking speed or taking meth. It does those same things without any of the side effects, without any of the degradations to things like dopamine or to your brain. There's a lot of wild stuff on the table that I think we're going to see over the next 20 years.
Yeah, that sounds fascinating. I had no idea. I mean, that opens up a whole new door for, especially when we've had more children now than ever diagnosed with ADD, ADHD, instead of doing Ritalin and all these synthetic pills, to provide another option that could be organic and designed for them. That's actually made like from the earth, something that's real. It'd be interesting. I'd like to learn more and dive into that with you as that continues. That's
absolutely
super fascinating.
There's some crazy stuff. Like there was a guy who actually was talking lately about how he thinks how the lack of hemp in farming as feed for cows has actually potentially affected downstream humans by the fact that there's less cannabinoids in all of our feed, in all of our meats, in all of our, even in what we intake prior to CBD and hemp being legalized, that it may have caused things like ADHD, things like autism, things like, and there's tons of other wild theories like vaccines and this and that. And
sure,
it all blends together. But at the end of the day, if you take a major food source like hemp, and hemp has CBD in it, it has THC acids in it. So real quick, the difference between THC that's in a growing plant and THC that you smoke is one is an acid and one is a decarboxylated molecule. So you take that acid, you heat it to a certain degree, and now it's ingestible or it's smokable in a psychoactive form. Those acid forms, though, are actually very beneficial from a health perspective, eating, nutrition, things like that. And so a lot of people have started to speculate, well, if those have been taken out of our systems for the last 60 to 100 years, could that be the reason why cancer is on the rise and has been on the rise for the last 50, 60 years? Could that be the reason for mental illness or this, that, or the other?
Interesting questions for sure.
Very, very.
Wow. Thank you for that. I really appreciate you just kind of just sharing a deeper thought and bringing forward those questions. I'm sure there'll be people listening like myself right now who, every time I'm talking to you, I learn something more about it.
Makes your mind race, doesn't it?
It does. It does. And one of the things, because we both we love our dogs, right?
Absolutely.
And something that we've been using for our bulldog, Bruce Wayne,
Absolutely.
And we use CBD and we call it Calm Bruce Down. That's kind of like our little thing, and it's been really helpful. And there's a lot of myths, people still misunderstanding, and so I was wondering if you could also kind of educate for our four-legged friends out there that
absolutely
someone who understands and can share. That'd be great.
CBD is definitely helpful for dogs. I have a little Rocco. You've seen Rocco. He's a crazy dog, even at 12 years old. CBD is good. THC, not so good. There have been a few instances where Rocco has gotten into dabs or into brownies or edibles.
Okay.
And he straight up like catatonic for 24 to 48 hours.
Oh, wow.
In a bad way.
Yeah.
So for anybody that has dogs out there, keep your edibles away from your dogs. Keep them away from your cats. They do make...
That's a good one to know.
I found that one out the hard way more than a few times.
Yeah.
They do make CBD edibles, CBD treats, tinctures, all kinds of stuff. I personally suggest that, especially for a high-wired dog, or for a dog that has detachment issues. If you have to go on a vacation, or if your dog freaks out when you leave the house, that is definitely something that can be used. You know, you want to play with dosages because you kind of want to be careful.
Yeah.
Mostly because a lot of these CBD companies put THC in their products, whether it knowingly or unknowingly. You want to make sure that whatever product you're buying comes with a third-party certificate of analysis of testing of what's in it.
Interesting.
Big thing I tell everybody is, just like with anything nowadays, trust but verify. Go make sure that whatever's in it is actually in it.
Yeah.
A lot of companies have gotten in trouble for putting THC in larger quantities into their products. And a lot of companies have gotten in trouble for just not having any CBD in their products like they say they do. So, verify what you're buying. Buy from a reputable company that actually is willing to be transparent.
Yeah.
And I think the four-legged friends will probably thank you for that in their own way.
Definitely. That's so helpful. I mean, we've been using it for bulldogs specifically have hip issues. Yep. And so, our little boy, he's 9.5 years old now. He still loves his play days. He goes crazy when he comes back and he can barely walk. And we've noticed that when we give him some CBD, like it's really, his recovery time is a lot better. And Absolutely. he'll know exactly, like he'll share with us, like, hey, I need this. And so it is pretty amazing. I mean, as we know, our animals are so intuitive and they're really, they know how to heal themselves and they don't get it in their own way, which is unlike humans. So, but
we can learn a thing or two.
We definitely could. And I really appreciate, that's good to know about a few of those. I didn't know that about the certificate. I think that's the third party, and that's something I definitely want to dive into.
Especially because THC is legal in so many markets on a medical side, but not legal on a non-medical side, and you can't actually transfer from state to state. So there's no interstate cooperation right now on the THC side. But CBD has opened this door to this very big gray market where now CBD products that have THC in them, higher or lower, are getting pushed across borders because it's completely nationwide legal. So there's so much gray area that I try and tell everybody, if you're going to buy CBD products, make sure you know what it is, you know who it's coming from. And if you're going to buy THC products, most dispensaries and most states now force the third-party testing. But that doesn't mean that people are above lying, and that doesn't mean people are above doctoring reports, which is one of those dark sides of the cannabis industry. There's a lot of people that pay for fraudulent testing. There's a lot of people that just straight lie. So just, as always, know who you're doing business with. Know who you're buying products from.
Love it. Circling back to our theme of gratitude, if you were to kind of have an ideal cannabis industry that you'd be like grateful, like, hey, this is what I'm so proud of, like, especially because you've seen it in all aspects of it, right? You've seen it from
Absolutely.
The very beginning, and you're in the throes of it right now, and you've seen movements. Like, what's the ideal, like, ultimate, like, man, I'm so grateful that cannabis is finally at this place. And this is what would you envision? Because I don't know if many people even know what that looks like. And as I'm kind of thinking about it right now, it's like, man, what would an integrated, cannabis society look like that we'd all be grateful and happy for?
No holds barred. Very, very, very low regulations aside from the testing aspects.
Okay.
Aside from, because, one of the dark sides of cannabis that, we're very big on is we grow organically in soil. We don't spray pesticides. We don't spray fungicides. We don't spray insecticides. A lot of these corporations and these larger companies, they can't scale properly, and that's what they actually use to help. Those are very dangerous. We really don't know what's going to happen 20, 30 years from now with, for instance, like Eagle 20 being sprayed on plants. We don't know what happens to the human body when we smoke weed that has had Eagle 20 sprayed on it.
Wow.
We really don't. Like, we're going to find out because it's all over the place in the industry, all over. So I would say no holds barred, no licensing, it's so hard right now because every state has different rules. Right. Most states have a very, very high barrier to entry. You need a lot of money. You have to go and get a license. You're maybe only, in some states, one of 5 licenses awarded.
Wow.
In Arizona, there's 150 roughly.
Wow.
And Arizona's structure is such that the dispensary, the grow, the manufacturing, the distribution, they're all owned under one single license. The testing is separate. So I would say I would be happiest if there was no licensing structure. If anybody could grow and scale a business in cannabis, knowing that, hey, you have to get it tested. Like, for instance, Oklahoma does an over-the-counter licensing permitting process. Something like that, because what it's going to do is, one, it's going to flood the market with products. It's going to oversaturate the market. And you're going to see very quickly who knows what they're doing and who doesn't. And the people that don't know what they're doing or that can't compete are going to fall off. I'm very much like free capitalism. Open the floodgates, see who can swim and see who can't. And let it be that way. And have the rules that you absolutely need, have the regulations you absolutely need to protect the consumer, just like you do in any industry. But make it a free capitalistic industry. Don't put all these insane barriers to keep 99% of people from being able to make money in that industry. Because that's really, at the end of the day, Arizona specifically, like when it first went medical, one of the specific regulations was you cannot apply for a license unless you can show a bank account with $150,000 in it.
Wow.
How many business people out there from day one to go apply for a license can just plop that down and be like, hey, I've got $150K sitting in a bank account.
Right.
So, and who was that written by? That was written by an old dude that had a ton of money, that knew he was going to get into the cannabis space and was legally connected to the guys that were writing the bill. So he said, put that in there. And I know this guy. I did business with this guy. I know the mentality. So things like that, I'd love to see a shift in, let's open the floodgates and let's see who can compete and who can't. Because from a selfish perspective, like I know me and my team can compete. I've also never been hindered by these barriers because I'm one of those guys that, okay, put a barrier in front of me. I'm going to figure out a way around it. I'll see you on the other side. But not everybody has that mentality. And, life's not fair. Sure. But I would love to see more people be given a chance because I think that there are so many opportunities and the industry could grow so much faster if everybody had the ability to partake. That's in a perfect world. Obviously, we don't live in a perfect world.
No, it's good. It's just good to hear an ideal situation. When I hear cannabis, it's just not something I hear about or hear people talking about very often. What does it look like? What can we all agree upon? What's a vision that makes sense, that has a clear viewpoint, that, right now there's such siloed separation with each state having different, it's really tough to get a congruent idea and understanding when it's federally illegal, right? Is that correct? But it's on a state by state, it's legal to some degree. And so no wonder there's chaos and disconnection because that's how it's being set up right now.
Absolutely.
And so it's interesting to hear a perspective that can provide some sort of, okay, well, hey, we may all have different ideas on how this goes. And this is something kind of newer to the market. But hey, if we all have a clear direction on where it's going, that might provide some more continuity, especially with, as you were saying, education. I know that's been a huge part of it. Seeing that come into the fold as well.
Absolutely.
Just helping people really understand, knowing that they can ask the questions and and feel empowered to educate themselves.
And up until, the last 3 or 4 years, it's still been closed off. And it's not necessarily been closed off because it's different from state to state, but because 10 years ago, I was doing this illegally. 10 years ago, I don't think anybody knew, except for maybe some very, very close friends and family, that I was growing a bunch of plants in a back bedroom in my house while living at my mom's. And I was making a shitload of money because I was selling to all of my close friends, and thank God I never got in trouble. But that mentality took a long time to kind of overcome, of like, it's legal now. I can talk about it now. I can openly discuss what's going on. The statute of limitations on what I did is now over.
Yes.
So now I can, it's been a lot of that. And so I'm hoping that over the next 5 to 10 years, as we inch closer to potential fully realized legalization, because all the things that the leaders are talking about now when it comes to legalization, like this whole thing with Biden just allowing for federal prisoners to get out, that was more of a stunt, because there was, I think, less than 500 people that were actually in jail on federal victimless ingesting or having small amounts of marijuana. Most people are actually in jail doing federal time because law enforcement actually gets them for trafficking. So there's a little bit of gamesmanship going on with politics and concerning letting people out of jail, because 99% of the time when somebody gets in trouble for a cannabis felony, it has to do with trafficking, and there's almost always a trafficking charge attached. If you have 2 Ziploc bags of weed and you're in a state that it's illegal or it's not medical, they're slapping you with a trafficking charge.
Oh, wow.
It's not something that's known unless like you're in the industry and you're like, wait a minute, that's a sneaky little game you did there. But we all know that that's maybe a handful of people, and the other 80% of the people that actually fill the jails, which cannabis crimes make up for, I believe, more than like 75% of current inmate amounts.
Wow.
And that's on a federal or a state level. Those people are all on trafficking. Those people are all on distribution, creation, cultivation. It's not for just some victimless, I smoked some weed and I got in trouble. So the more people know, the better. And the closer we get to people having the full knowledge so that they can hold their leaders accountable, the faster this whole thing is going to turn.
That's a great answer. Thank you for just providing that.
Absolutely. It's a frustrating topic for me because it's like everybody was all happy about it, and I'm just like, one of those.
Yeah. I mean, we don't know until we know. And that's why I'm really grateful that as someone who's in the industry that's willing to kind of talk about this and share and be a trustworthy source. And, because you lead from the heart so much, and that's why you're here today, is where you highlight heart leaders around the world in all different industries, all different backgrounds, all different purposes in life, sharing their passion, sharing as they embody what makes them, their authentic selves, right? And that's what I love about what you're doing. And you lead so much from the heart. You lead with trust. You have a lot of these attributes that we have kind of share. We share every month all these different attributes about what makes a heart leader. And so we like to kind of close things out, discussing, when you hear the term heart leader, and you've been, as you are, very much a heart leader, like, what does that invoke in you? When you hear that term, what do you feel?
I think it's similar to plugging an iPhone into a charger. Like, for me, I very often am always thinking forward and what's the next task at hand and what's the next thing that I have to do. It's not so often that I get to sit back and fully intake what I am or what I've done or how I've affected the people around me. So it's small moments like this that I get to kind of sit back and be like, okay, at the end of the day, everything you do is worth it. It is making an impact. It is something that fills me with great amounts of joy because it's due to one single instance of a family member passing away that, my opinion, all of this stuff has happened. And so from that perspective, it fills me with joy. It gives me a little bump and like, all right, bring it on.
That's beautiful.
So I appreciate you.
Oh, I appreciate you, man. I mean, being able to breathe love, compassion, and heart into an industry, as you were saying, has been so cutthroat and so difficult. It's an uphill battle. And so I know we're grateful for someone like you to be, a maverick, to be a pioneer, and to kind of just say, hey, you can lead with love. And love is recognizing that the people are in pain, and there needs to be other solutions. There needs to be alternatives. And you provide the education, the awareness, and then you supply through cultivation quality product to actually help people when they're in need.
Absolutely.
And that's a beautiful thing, man.
I love it. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
I'm going to keep doing it.
Please do.
They can't stop me. So
that's good, man. That's really good. So for everyone who's listening, I'm sure they're going to want to reach out. They're going to want to learn about your, everything that you're doing. Can you share a little bit? How do they reach you? How do they know your company? What's the best way for them to understand your products or you or any of that?
Absolutely. So we've gone under various names. Currently, our brand is Cannaplanet.
Okay.
And you can find me on Instagram. The Axel Smith Official is kind of my business page, and then One Cortex is my personal page.
Perfect.
You can follow Cannaplanet_AZ. All of our wild, crazy stuff gets posted on a daily basis there. So, feel free to reach out. Feel free to ask me questions. When it comes to this particular aspect, I'm an open book. I'll answer any question. And I'm probably going to answer it in a way that you might not expect. I'm going to give you the full no BS. And, I'll do whatever I can to help other people. I'm pretty open to sharing what I have with other people. So yeah, just feel free to reach out. I'm always available.
I love it. And we'll put all of that down in the description below so people can have easy access to that. And let's say someone wants to support you, buy product, what's the best way to do that?
So there's a few different dispensary chains that starting within the next couple of weeks are going to be housing our products regularly.
Nice.
Arizona Natural Concepts, Health for Life, Oasis, AYR. As of right now, that's the mainstay of but as we go through this purchase of this new grow, we will be buying a secondary brand, and they're all over the state as well. Nirvana Center dispensaries, downtown dispensary in Tucson, D2. And we will open and share all of this information with everybody so they know exactly where to find our products. Perfect.
And I'll grab the list of all that from you after this, and we'll make sure to have all those details for everyone who is either listening or watching. We'll just make it really easy for them.
Absolutely. And if you don't like our products, feel free, give me a shout. We are always willing to make sure that you are happy with products at the end of the day.
And I can vouch for that, because you, for over the years, just as your friend, I mean, anytime, you've been always open to feedback, always open to make adjustments, and to really, because you care. I mean, you are a heart leader, my brother.
I appreciate it.
Thank you for your time today, man.
Thanks, Austin.
And thank you all for listening. I know this is such a unique and sensitive subject, but I really hope that you learn just as much about cannabis as I have, and from just an incredible trusted source. Again, Alex has been a brother to me for a good portion of my life, and he's someone that I believe in, and someone that I feel brings a lot of integrity to the industry. So if you have any questions, any thoughts, again, we'll put everything down there for Alex. And we just really appreciate you listening. Thank you for everything. And this month, we still have our free download, and it's the Gratitude Journal 2.0. And at the end of the month, we're going to be launching something totally new. It's going to be called the Heart Leader Headquarters. So it's still a little under wraps, but we promise we'll let you know at the end of the month here. And so be on the lookout. Thank you again. So much love, and we'll see you next time.
You've been listening to the Heart Leader Podcast with your host, Amber, where heart and mind align. Tune in weekly as we take a deeper dive into what it means to be a heart leader. Ready to take the next step? Join us and over 1 million people worldwide who've united in creating this global movement of love. Become a heart leader for today and tomorrow. Learn more and connect with us at sweetbera.org.